What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Holy
Show him
crap.
your t-shirt.
He's wearing
what's
it.
up?
It's the t-shirt. Available at
Man.
kindoffunny.com/store.
It feels good.
Yeah, it feels like it's of a higher quality print.
You look, look at the flexing. Now turn to the camera and make your boobies dance in it.
Sneaky. It feels good.
Yeah, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
I'm just in love with this.
Now you do that.
I can't do that.
No?
I'm gonna teach y'all how to do it.
No.
It's hard.
You just told me you use your
Can we
pedal
do it?
muscles. I'm like,
Can we do it? There it is. Look at it.
They're going. Why are they in slow motion?
like
There's like a slow, deliberate rhythm to the way he was doing it.
And of course here, the pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
Go Islanders. I haven't
Islanders.
been on the show. I almost forgot how to do this show at this point.
You've been gone a long time.
I think you did 2 episodes of that.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did We did Anthony Carbone's episode, and we did Lauren Lanning's episode.
Yeah.
And then we did both them.
It was weird.
Oh,
I liked
It was
that.
a rigmarole.
it's good to be back.
You went to Iceland.
I went to Iceland.
You went to Boston. You went to New York.
Yeah, it was in New York, Boston, and Iceland. Yeah.
Now, Colin, have you met Lauren yet? Lauren Lanning?
No, not in person.
You and he would have a lot to discuss.
It'd be a fascinating.
Oh, yeah, no,
conversation.
we got to get him back. He is a fascinating human being.
He's definitely been known as one of the brains, I think, of the games industry.
Yeah.
Like in terms of the development side for quite a while.
You
That
should watch the
one-
you should get
episode
it back.
about the Burning Man.
Oh yeah,
He's crazy.
He's nuts.
Oh, I
in a
believe
great
it.
way, in like a crazy like
Have
a
you seen
fox
his
kind of
games?
way.
We should have you and him. You should do a one-on-one with him.
We
You
should.
guys just
Oh, man.
podcast
We
for as long as
really
you want
should.
to podcast.
Because I feel like it would be 4 hours, and you guys
It'd be
have
fascinating.
You would learn something.
I'm sure I would. I like learning.
I got it.
It's
Yeah.
impossible for Colin to learn anything else. He knows everything.
Well, they would both learn something. I feel like they both know that it's impossible.
Then
would
so if
teach
if they
each
came
other
together, they would just have all the knowledge in the world between
Either
them.
that, or
Yeah.
we would come back and they would both be shut-ins with like they would barricade themselves in and just completely convince each other that the Russians were coming any day now.
something. It's going to be one of the two.
Speaking of which, how stoked are you that we're in another Cold War basically with
Oh,
the
it's great.
Russians?
I love it.
What
Isn't it
happened
awesome?
there? I missed that. What happened?
We just everyone's been saying it lately.
Putin's a tyrant.
Oh,
Putin's
they were
crazy.
just normal Putin stuff. Nothing crazy happened today.
No,
No.
Putin, another day. in
No,
Putin
but
land.
there's just that,
No,
that,
but the whole-
general feeling that there's another Cold War. Like we're in another Cold War with Russia. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
the whole thing when Russia just took a piece of a sovereign country and no one did anything about
Yeah,
it.
we didn't
That
do
just
shit.
happened. That was no big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Or they just he assassinated like his most outspoken.
Yeah, right outside the Kremlin. It happened to.
outside the fucking Kremlin. Yeah.
What's the subtitle going to be? Cold War 2.
I just feel like we're just gonna call it the Hunt for October this time.
Okay.
I think we'll just call it Cold War. Shocking. We'll win again.
Putin's Putin.
Shocker, we're gonna win again.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. If you didn't know, each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, the entire show posts early over on patreon.com/kindafunny each and every Friday. But if you don't want to give us any money, it's no big deal. It goes up topic by topic, day by day over on youtube.com/kindafunny. Before we post the entire show as an MP3 and video on the following Friday. First off, whoa.
Crushed that.
You were happy with that one?
You're just so good at things, Greg.
You're really good.
Killed
The
someone's
rigmarole.
eardrums.
And they liked it.
Yeah,
They
they probably did.
loved
They
it.
probably
That's
did
that
like
sweet,
it.
sweet love.
This is the guy who was listening to the Gamescast waiting for his mom at the podiatrist. He put this one on as they were leaving the podiatrist, and it turned out they had to take the foot. Rough,
You were wrong.
Rough time. I'm sorry. It
Whoa.
turned out it wasn't
Man.
good. It wasn't as good. Thank
Yeah.
you for leaving a comment on the chair. The corn
Ocean
turned
Fire.
out to
Wait,
be a rock.
was it gangrene? Like was
Yeah.
it gangrous?
It was that. And it was a little bit of diabetes, and it was
the
gangrous.
beaties. It's always
And
the
a rock.
crap.
There's a rock in there now. There's no, now she's
Feels really bad. What's the kid's name?
Geraldo.
Joey Sandoni. That's what his
Joey
name's gonna be.
Sandoni.
Joey Sandoni.
Joey
All right.
Sandoni from
What's
the
Joey
kid-
Sandoni's job? What's he doing?
Johnny Sand's, well, he's only 16.
Okay.
But he works at a Baskin Robbins 31 Flavors.
Okay.
Now, his favorite flavor, of course, like every sane
Rum
human
raisin.
being, is the gold medal ribbon at the 31 Flavors.
I've never had that.
What
What
is
It
the
is a
gold
chocolate
medal ribbon?
vanilla with a swirl of caramel ribbon.
Oh.
It is the bomb diggity dom. Now, the problem with that job is that you're around sugar constantly. Okay, this
This is
led
how Mom got the
to
diabetes?
the diabetes, which then they had to take his foot.
No, it's his mom's foot.
They had to take his mom's
So he
foot too.
Well, that's the part of the story.
That's how bad they were.
Jesus Christ!
Joey,
Stay away from 31 Flavors.
Joey, stop bringing home the ice cream cakes.
Where is this all taking place? Where is Joey Sandoni? Where does he live?
I feel like somewhere in Chicago probably, or
I was
somewhere
thinking,
in the
I was thinking more, yeah, like Peoria. What is that?
Peoria? Peoria, Illinois? All right.
Illinois, yeah.
I think it's
Somewhere in the suburbs.
Williamsburg. But he calls it Billy
Should
Burg.
we
Virginia?
maybe? Should we check in on Joey Sandoni
Every week we should get an
just to see
update on
him?
it.
It's so fucked
the
up.
footless clan
Yeah,
of
because-
Sandonis.
Because you missed the whole. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's silly to think that his mom's foot was just taken by by osmosis. What really happened is that he would bring home the ice cream that then gave her diabetes that then hit his foot as well. So we were missing a step there. I was gonna make a Carvel joke, but I realized we're talking about a different.
I know that'd be too easy. I
was gonna say like she loved the whale cake that they had there. What was the whale's name? Does anyone remember? You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly. No, this is a Craig Harris joint. He loves these things.
And
Fudgy the whale.
They bring a Fudgy the whale cake home every day, and she.
Oh my God! No wonder.
True story. My brother used to work at 31 Flavors, and he used to bring home tons of ice cream every day. Like they would make whenever they'd screw up a cake, which they would do. Shocker! On purpose.
Small wonder, by the way, that you were obese.
Oh my God! He was actually really skinny in high school and college. I was like. Who brought home the giant cake made of pralines and cream? And can I put all of it in my mouth at one time?
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Good.
Side note, I can do that.
Oh, can we just go back to the fact that Nick said,
so fat.
Where did you get bomb diggity dom?
I don't know. Did I say that? You know what? Here's what happens is I listen to you guys do Gamescast for an hour and a half, and I get so jealous that I'm not here to say things. And sometimes I'll say things to you guys underneath my breath. Like, wow. Like I would say like a comment back, and then I'd laugh at myself, but then no one was around to hear it. It's really sad.
I want to go back. So can we step back for just a moment?
Sure.
I'm trying to visualize like how fat were you? Because I've seen pictures
in
of
high
you
school.
in high school, and I don't feel like you were.
Yeah, you weren't. You were just
High school. You saw the one picture of me as a drum major when I trimmed down to svelte 220.
Post shadow boxing.
I was a 220. That was as good as shadow boxing can get me. Then in college actually is when I bulked up to about 240, 250.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I was a big boy. I looked rotund. Like I looked like a walking bowling ball. Not fat necessarily, because people gain weight in different ways. Some people gain a lot of it in their gut. I just gain it everywhere that a piece of fat can go in a body. So
you went like Hulk. You hulked out.
Yeah, I was Hulk. I actually have pictures. I gotta get those pictures of when I went as the Incredible Hulk one Halloween. It was hilarious.
Did you just paint yourself green?
Yeah. And then I passed out on my friend's couch.
Oh, he probably liked the couch was then green.
Gone. Yeah, the couch was done. Like it looked like someone shit green all over the couch and then smeared it.
It was a murder scene if blood was green.
Yeah. It was like the time I ate an entire box of Fruit Loops for no reason. And the next day it was like for the next week and a half, my shit was just green.
Yeah.
All those dyes just turned green.
Lucky Charms, man. If you eat Lucky Charms, that's going to be one green toilet bowl.
Before we get to your topic, Tim, I want to thank all the patrons. We have 2 months of thank yous here to go in. Thank you so much for your support as always. We love you very much. Thanks for allowing us to live the stream, do this. We hope we meet most of you at Kinda Funny Live coming up here May 16th.
Sold out.
Sold out officially.
My God.
Yeah?
I'm so excited.
Yeah?
It's going to be hella fun.
We got a lot of things to do.
We have so much to do.
Before that, though, Tim, what's your topic?
My topic for today is Star Wars Episode freaking 7. And that second teaser trailer that we got.
Yeah.
Which might as well have just been a trailer.
What's the difference at this point between a trailer and a teaser trailer?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's one of those things where
this seemed like a trailer. This is an all-on trailer.
I think trailer is usually when there's actual plot. When you hear dialogue that's straight from the movie of characters talking in it, whereas teaser is if it's just VO and stuff.
Interesting.
Right?
I would go as far as to say a trailer has plot exposition in it where you're actually getting like a feel for what the whole flow of the first and second and potentially, depending on the trailer, third and the sequel. Like, most trailers just show you exactly what, like, how many trailers have you seen where you're like, is that the last shot of the movie?
Yeah, we should make a movie trailer. We should make a movie trailer that spoils the sequel. That's really funny. I like that.
So I feel like
real quick before we get into Star Wars in general, when did trailers move away from the voice?
Late 90s.
Yeah. This summer.
There's an interesting indie movie about that. I think it was Lake Bell did it, where I forget what it was called, but it was about that. It was about like the joke of the movie was they're bringing back the movie voice. Yeah. And she was the first. She wanted to be the first ever female VO.
I've seen it. Her dad's the movie.
Her dad is the movie guy. Yeah.
Sorry. Anyways, back to Star Wars.
Every little thing
she does is magic. Ewan McGregor and Renee Zellweger in The Case of Too Many Tombstones.
Oh my God.
It's so funny that was that a Sherlock Holmes case? It's funny when you go back and watch those trailers though, they are cheesy. Like it just explains
it's ridiculous.
To you exactly. It's like Honest Trailers. Is that Honest Trailers? Who's the one that does the trailers where it's like where they're like a man and a woman look at each other, then they fall in love. Then this happens, it's exactly like that.
It's so weird. Do you guys ever see? I forgot what it's for. I think it was the Oscars. They did a video like to open the Oscars where the movie voice guy was in like a limo and he was going around picking up the other 5 voice people, and they picked up the guy that does the Disney voices, and then he did the guy that does the like commercial voices and stuff, and they're all in the back of the limo talking to each other. And it's so funny because he's like, no, you're doing it wrong. Like, you got to in a world where whatever. And then the Disney guy's like, nah. And it's that Disney narrator voice that like if you heard, you'd be like, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
And it's a great video. You should YouTube it. I'm just voice actor guys, limo.
I actually remember exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
To the Star Wars trailer, I thought it was amazing.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, it's again when the first teaser came out. I think it was the holiday season last year. We weren't together.
Yeah, it was around Thanksgiving.
I think was it Thanksgiving? Because I feel like I watched.
We were
it
all
at
scattered.
Yeah, we were scattered around, and I watched it. And again, it was one of those things where I'm like, I'm not excited for this. There's so much coming out. I sound like a spoiled brat when I say it, but we're just like it's like fatigue with all the CG crazy movies, and it's all the same. So I click on the teaser, not reluctantly. I'm excited to see it, but I'm like, yeah, fat chance this is going to get me excited about Star Wars. And by the end of it, I was like tearing up, so excited. Like it just made it helped that I was sitting in my childhood home watching it, like in the exact area where I used to like burn out my Return of the Jedi VHS tape, like just play it over and over again, in the exact same place where every holiday season when they'd play them on like whatever channel over and over and over again, you're like, well, I'm gonna watch all these, then I'm gonna watch all the Bond movies, then I'm gonna watch all the Bond movies again because there's like 30 of them. It was exciting. So the second trailer, I'm like, okay, cool, we're just gonna see more of it. Same feeling. I'm like, God, man, they're just nailing it. Like you said it. Colin said it right. They're just like, it just looks right.
I mean, I just can't believe how right it all is. I mean, the trailer is just one aspect of it. I just feel like what Disney's doing with like managing this Star Wars universe right now, they are just nailing it. Like every single aspect so far, I'm just like, yes, yes, yes. And it's almost like I can't believe it's there must be a joke. There must be Jar Jar's hiding somewhere. Like there's something going on.
Sure,
like it's crazy that like they're handling it this well. Like the comic series that are out right now, I just caught up and I'm like, this is incredible. This is like really good fan fiction to the point where I'm just like, this has to be fan fiction because it's written by somebody that cares too much.
Right.
And,
I mean, that's why they're succeeding, right? Is that Disney was on the outside with us. Mm-hmm. And they're like, man, this is going off the rails. I would do that, and then they got it. And like, oh, let's do all those things.
Let's do those things. And it's like, man, there's something about it where I feel so good about it that they're gonna give us the moments that we need of like, oh, here's Vader and here's this, but it's not gonna feel like Episode 1 did, where it's like R2-D2's back, and so is C-3PO, and so is all the characters you love. But it's just like I feel like it's gonna be way more natural, and I don't think it's going to be as forced.
69. Sorry, Greg, you weren't here for that. You don't understand what I'm saying.
Positions.
You're so beautiful.
It was a sex thing. But I think that it's going to be really good, and I feel like 7 is going to set, like, as you see in this trailer, like, I love that the VO that was used and all the shots that we got, that this was the trailer of, hey, here's the old coming back. Mm-hmm. And I like that it really sets up that the movie might not entirely be that. It's not just going to be, here's all the old things again, now they're all old. It's just like, you're going to get those moments of the old things, but this is about the new cast. This is about all these like new characters they're showing. Mm-hmm. How somehow I was interested in these new characters when you're showing me Harrison Ford. That's a good sign to me, that I have questions about the Stormtrooper dude and the girl with the stick.
The lightsaber?
No, she
has like some sort of vibroblade or whatever they used to call those things. Yeah, I think it's what I said to Nick. This, and I was talking to my again for people that don't watch Colin and Greg live. Like my family's crazy about Star Wars, and I think it's been lost on a lot of people because I like so lapsed with the prequels. I was. Like, everyone always talks about, like, our friend Anthony Gallegos as being really into Star Wars and stuff. Like, I am basically, in my opinion, his equal in terms of the old movies and the old expanded universe, in terms of, like, how much I was into it. I fucking loved Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And the prequels just ripped everything out of me. Like, where I'm like, this shit sucks, you know? And I know we don't want to belabor that point, but, like, that shit sucks. Like, the episode 1, I remember walking into episode 1 and being so excited and walking out of there and still being like, that was cool. And then, like, you just think about it. I remember even going to the diner afterwards, May 16th, 1999, whatever it was. I went to the diner with my dad and my brother afterwards, and I was talking about it, and like slowly it started to unravel. I'll never forget it, like being like, but what about, yeah, and that was cool, but, and then like slowly, like you go see it again, and then the way my dad put it to me, who's a huge nerd with Star Wars, just like me and my brother, is like, this is being made by people like us. Yeah. It's not being made by one man who's, and I don't want to call him a tyrant because we don't know George Lucas personally, But like, but he
God damn.
No, but he apparently ran a ship where like and it's Red Letter Media and a lot of guys have already talked about this, like kind of going over like the making of footage and stuff. No one would say no to him. Like I've talked about it before, but there's a shot after they watch the first episode 1's first cut, and everyone looks horrified. I don't know if the people know the footage I'm talking about, like where they're all sitting in like a private theater and they're all like, and like no one will say anything to them, and that's not. The culture of like fear or kind of authority that was there, I think, at Lucasfilm is not there now. And so people with different and new ideas are coming in and saying like, dude, blue screens are not the way we do things. We're using practical effects. We have industrial lights and magic. Look at the beautiful things they did in the 70s and 80s. We can get that new talent and do new things. When I found out BB-8 was like, I thought for sure BB-8 was fake until they were like, no, that's real. And I'm like, how the fuck does that even work? And I still didn't believe it until I saw him on the stage at the Star Wars celebration. As a lapsed Star Wars fan, I'm really excited because it's all looking the way it should look. And I believe in J.J. Abrams for what he did with Star Trek and all that kind of stuff, especially. He's the right man for the job. And as a lapsed Star Wars fan who's gone on record many times on this show and on Conversation with Colin Moriarty about how bad Star Wars has become, this makes me so happy because it looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, think about this, right? Everyone, let's see, I was roughly about 5 or like I guess 4 when the last movie came out. When did Jedi come out? 84? 83? So I was 3 years old when Jedi came out. So I spent all of my formative years watching those 3 movies. Well into until I was 18 or 19. Must have been 19, right? 98, 99. The episode 1 came out.
Episode 1 came out in 99, May
99. So I was 19 years old. So that is 16 years of watching 3 movies, and that was all I had for Star Wars. You had some video games in there, of course, and then we had like I read one of the books because you can't really read and eat pizza at the same time. It gets kind of sloppy. So imagine then that there must be a ton of me out there who now work in the film industry and are like chomping at the bit. I'm 35 years old, right? At this point, like if I had started working in Industrial Light and Magic when I was in my 20s, I would be a veteran. I would have say in what these movies are right now as they're being made. That excites me. That is a cool. That's just cool, man. It's like it's same with the video game industry where you're now seeing people that grew up, everyone that develops games now grew up in the 80s. They grew up in like the late 70s, early 80s, and they understand gaming from the ground up. People understand Star Wars from the ground up now, and that's part of it. The other part of it, yeah, of course, is that you got a guy like J.J. Abrams who's been a super fan. I think he's in his 40s now, but he's probably roughly around the same generation as I am. And he listens to his people. He gets good people and listens to them. I gotta imagine though, you're sitting there on day 1 of the production of Phantom Menace, and you're like, and George Lucas says something. I would be like, it's George Lucas. Like he made Star Wars. Like I'm not gonna say no to this guy. By Revenge of the Sith, I might be like,
no, it's too late.
Nah, it's too late.
What are you gonna do?
But I feel like that's maybe what happened because the movies got progressively better as they went on. Like Clone Wars was, man, and then Revenge of the Sith was at least the last scene. You're like, oh,
it's good.
Okay,
I say
it's
a decent movie. 3, and I'll stand by that. It's not the train wreck that the first 2 are.
No, it's not.
But
largely
I think the
because they
biggest
stopped
problem with the prequels is that those movies weren't made to make good stories and make good movies. They were made to like show off effects and stuff, and toys too. But like, I feel like all the CG and all that stuff, that was just trying to like push the boundaries of graphics and all that stuff. Then those movies were showpieces of just like they were tech demos, really. Yeah,
that's why they're awful.
Yeah.
Like I love when they show the shots again. And Red Letter Media does a really nice job where they just show the shots of the actors acting. There's nothing. There's no one around them. There's no like. How can you be inspired? No wonder Hayden Christensen's delivery sucks. He's in the middle of a fucking soundstage with
blue.
no one around him.
Blue. And it's all blue, which is like everywhere you look is blue, and there's like a tennis ball in front of you.
Like you got to give them some
sand.
You got to give them some credit. I mean, even established actors didn't really like Ewan McGregor. Wasn't really great. Like,
I mean, you've got
and he's
Natalie
a great
Portman, Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, and Hayden Christensen. Like those are your leads, and none of them are particularly compelling in this piece.
He kept saying he had a bad feeling about it. No one would.
But here's the thing that's
maybe
exciting.
he had a bad feeling about his little ponytail.
My hope, and I knew that they weren't probably going to do it. My hope was that Disney would ultimately say like the prequels are done, like they're not. They exist, and like I don't think they're going to do that.
They're not. I mean, they've now even said like at Star Wars Celebration, they're just like, no, like we are embracing pieces of this into.
I would not be surprised though if like 10, 15 years from now someone was like, some executive gets it in his head where he's like, we really should go back and fix that grave injustice. Like especially if you've got I just saw the teaser today for Rogue One, which, come on, dude.
I'm more excited about Rogue One than I am about
Jesus, that looks cool. What a great
Are you really?
concept.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
crazy
It's cool.
to me. Because I know how excited you are. I mean, I'm so stoked for Rogue One, but like specifically Colin, you're more excited about that than Episode 7?
Here's the thing about Rogue One, and I don't know if Nick agrees with me or you guys agree with me about this. The prequels were answering questions I really didn't have. I really didn't give a fuck about where Anakin came from.
It's cooler not knowing.
Like these questions, like Vader was or Vader. Lucas was asking. Lucas was answering questions that I didn't have. And
You're Colin and Vader.
Yeah,
I love that.
Basically the same person. And and they actually took shit that was material to the trilogy and ruined it. I.e., as we've talked about, fucking ad nauseum, Boba Fett, right? They ruined him, right? They ruined Stormtroopers. They ruined everything. The movies and midichlorians, like everything, they ruined fucking everything. The thing about Rogue One that makes me excited is that is a question that people have been asking since A New Hope. Where did they get the Death Star plans from? And that's like why I'm so excited about it is when Mon Mothma was talking about the Bothans that died and stuff. Who the fuck is she talking about? Like, when are we ever going to learn about them? That is a real material question, and they're going to answer it. So it's not like how the fuck can we pigeonhole fucking Boba Fett into this in such a way to sell more toys that then ruins the new things. It's like, no, this happened, and this is basically the real prequel to A New Hope.
Yes.
And like that's like what's so exciting about it.
Yes.
Now there are questions to remain. I was talking about on Colin and Greg, my dad being a huge nerd, and I and my brother were talking like, how are they gonna? They either have to avoid Grand Moff Tarkin or work him in some way because he is the leader of the Empire at this point.
Yeah,
he has to be in it. I don't know how they're gonna do that. Vader's obviously gonna be in it as well. Now, like. But what's exciting is that none of the guys that are in this, the Bothans or whoever the fuck they are, use the Force. They don't have lightsabers. They're normal alien creatures or people, whatever. I'm way more excited. I'm excited about Episode 7. Don't get me wrong, but I'm really fucking excited about this. Like when I heard that was the plot, I'm like, that is fucking awesome. Because again, that shows that it's not George Lucas. It's some guy who appreciates and likes Star Wars and was sitting around a table much like this maybe and be like, who stole the Death Star plans?
Yeah, but
and that's a question
that's what's so cool about it is think about all those questions you had when you were a kid, where you're like, they can be answered, and not only can they be answered, they can be given the treatment that they deserve, which is a standalone film that doesn't necessarily it still needs to feed canon. But imagine this: when we're done with these 6 films, we're going to look back and we're going to have 10 to 12 hours of this fully fleshed out world with all these amazing characters that you can just tell stories with. It's very much what Marvel's trying to do, but Marvel for some reason doesn't seem like it's going to be as well rounded, And like you look at the bigger series like Harry Potter where it's a straight standalone story, or Lord of the Rings where you're like, wow, why is this 15 hours? Like, why do we need 3 movies about killing a dragon and saving a town? Whereas with Star Wars, they can tell that story. It doesn't have anything to do. We don't need to see the Millennium Falcon in that. We don't need to see a lightsaber in that. Like, we're going to get that. That's great. Now we can just spend 2 hours over here on this badass little side story that you can take risks with, too.
Yeah.
Because it's not the bigger overall arching canon, right? They can do some crazy shit with it. You can have Darren Aronofsky direct a Wolverine movie in this world because guess what? You still got the main Marvel films. Or I'm mixing my metaphors.
I mean, I wouldn't downplay Marvel on this. I think that they are doing something.
Marvel's doing it great, but, like, they haven't knocked it really out of the park with, like...
Daredevil.
I just feel like a lot of their side stuff is kind of going off into the distance a little bit, especially their TV offerings. I just don't know if it's going to be as tight as Star Wars.
I mean, I guarantee Star Wars is going to fall apart very soon once specifically with the anthologies. Yeah, Rogue One looks fucking awesome, but guess what? The kids only. I mean, Star Wars is the same shit with Star Wars Rebels and stuff. It's like people love that, but there's a lot of people that don't. Same thing with Daredevil. People love it. There's a lot of people that don't. Like, I think it's very similar to Marvel, where it's like. Some of it's going to be really good. There's going to be a lot of not good stuff.
But the thing about Rogue One, and that I think is most compelling, and why I like it too, is that it's not only answering pertinent questions, but it's bold enough to say, like, this galaxy is wider than the story of these Jedi and these people. The problem with the prequels, when you really think back on it, it was George Lucas trying to pigeonhole everything as being interconnected from a embryonic state.
Yeah.
So as opposed to, like, the Corellian Corvette running, speeding away from the Star Destroyer at the beginning of A New Hope, and this is when the droids meet, and everyone, like, no, they actually have, like, a history, and, like, all this shit was forced and annoying, and that's why I didn't like it. When you really think back on it. So it's like saying, like, 3PO, like, Anakin builds 3PO, and, like, it's like this is supposed to, like, that was, I know it's supposed to be like it's a fantastic galaxy far, far away, a lot of fucking crazy shit's happening, but, like, it's it's supposed to be this vast place with trillions of people and aliens in it, and they're all interconnected in this intimate way. Like from the very beginning, it doesn't make any sense. It's fucking stupid. That's why Rogue One being like, Rogue One's like a story that has nothing to do. Like this was in motion before fucking Obi-Wan met Luke.
Yeah.
So like it's that's why it's exciting. It's just another story. They've never actually told a story that didn't involve anyone.
Yeah.
And that's why it's like
Rogue One's gonna be so cool. I mean, they kept saying that like it's the wars of Star Wars and all that stuff like in the speech they were giving. That's so awesome. It reminds me a lot of Halo Reach, where it's like we know the end of the story, but it's like just seeing that and like just knowing that how things are gonna go. That's awesome. And like those characters can die, and that'll be fine, and it'll mean something based on the plot of that movie. But like they're not in other ones necessarily, so it's like there's none of that stuff where you're just like, well, you know that Anakin lives, you know that like all these. Yeah,
that's the other point is like with the original trilogy, you know how that ends. Mm-hmm. Like we know we have 3 movies explaining how the original 3 ended. With Rogue One, there's almost a different excitement because we do know how that ends too, right? But I want to see, like, I don't know anything about these characters or why they sacrifice their lives to do this thing. Like, we know kind of why, but I think it was Damon Lindelof said there's no suspense and inevitability, which I kind of disagree with in this, because I think it's fascinating watching a movie where you know that the majority of the cast is probably going to get decimated by the end of it. Titanic was actually a perfect example of that, except, you know, there was that they had to shoehorn in all the romance stuff in there.
They wove it in very, very well. Yeah. Shoehorn it in.
There's enough room on that board for both of us. I don't know. I don't think there's. I mean, there's like just a board.
You just don't get it, Nick. You just don't get it at all.
You don't understand
the board. It's the size of a table, but let's be honest. Like I got to dress and stuff like that. I'm a little cold. You stay in the water. Oh, you're gone. No.
I agree with you with what you're saying about Lindelof's quote in the sense that like episode 7 is exciting because we don't know. We have rumors, but we don't know. Like we think we know what it's about. We're gonna see a lot of familiar faces. A lot of people are really interested in stuff Timothy Zahn was touching on in the early 90s, which is what fucking happened to the Empire. Like the Empire didn't disappear. Just because the second Death Star was destroyed doesn't mean it disappeared. Now we know they didn't. They have a new logo. The Stormtroopers are new. Like they still exist.
They got a new graphic designer.
Yeah, they have a new graphic designer. Like they still exist. I'm really fascinated by this female Stormtrooper officer. I'm really fascinated by like apparently the lore about the obsession over Vader and that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot like with his mask and like that's apparently cool. Like, they worship
it's
this.
So cool.
Like and like that's like interesting, and I'm excited about that. But with Rogue One, there's just something you just think about it like Nick already said. Like you think about that speech as a kid, and you're like, there's all these questions. Like because I often wondered as a kid, did the Empire not know that the plans were stolen? Or do they think that the space station was so on purpose that they didn't care? Mm. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna get like these sort of answers to these questions that I think are really exciting and really quite compelling. Mm-hmm. You know, and I hope that my hope with the anthology is that they jump in to the middle of New Hope and Empire with the second one, and then into the middle of Empire and Jedi in the third one. And what I hope the third one is Shadows of the Empire.
Oh God, that would be like fucking amazing. But
like fill in these stories. Like there's a lot of essential lore about like how.
Well, they can't do Shadows though. Shadows of the Empire?
Yeah.
What is Shadows of the Empire?
It's probably the most famous Star Wars book. It's not canon anymore.
They'd have to recast though, because everyone had to be way younger, right?
Yeah,
for Shadows.
But they don't have to include everyone. Like it could just be Dash Rendar and Shizor and a lot of these different people.
Oh, that would be amazing.
But
that would be amazing.
The point I'm trying to make is like in between like the essential story elements of in between A New Hope and Empire, which I think are understated too, about going to Hoth and all these kinds of things, like and how the Empire ultimately knew where to look to find them. Mm-hmm. They used the probe droids obviously and stuff like that in the beginning of the movie, but there's like a lot of story to be told there about like what happens to the rebellion after they destroyed the Death Star, because it wasn't over. And we never see Coruscant or anything. Coruscant is something Timothy Zahn made up. It wasn't something that George Lucas made up. The capital city, the capital planet of the Empire was made up in the books. So like they never allude to it or show it. And so like what's happening there? Like what's happening with all these people? There's a lot of story to tell in between the movies.
Yeah, you just broke my brain because I knew this, but it dawned on me that Rogue One is a prequel to New Hope, not to Episode 7.
Right. It's between 3 and 4.
Then they could actually go forward and somehow figure out a way to do
between 4 and 5, and then between 5 and 6.
That's amazing. If that's their goal, that's freaking awesome, because that means they could do 3 more after that.
I mean, they're not going to do that. I think the anthology movies, they're just going to be
just one-offs.
Like
I think they're just stories. That
I almost guarantee the second one's going to be some animated stuff. I really think so.
You think so? Well, no, because they already said what's his butt's working on it. Looper, Ryan Johnson.
Oh, the second one?
Yeah. He's got the second one.
The anthology stuff's all prequel stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, we don't 7 to 7.
Maybe. I mean, one of them might be.
I mean, it could be anything. Like, it literally could be anything. And they said they're going to do a bunch of different genres, a bunch of different.
Well, they know they put a director on the second one, which is Ryan Johnson, the guy that did Looper and Brick and Brothers Bloom and all that stuff. Gareth Edwards and Gary Whitta were the ones writing Rogue.
They're doing
One,
Rogue One,
yeah. So I don't know who's writing the Rian Johnson one. I think it's him. I think he's actually doing the first draft, but I could be wrong.
And then announced Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones
is going to be like the
in it.
Is in it or is the main character?
I don't know if it's clear.
I don't know.
Presumably, a name like that would be a lead.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
What you were
It's
talking
exciting.
about with like C-3PO being super forced, where like they go back and like, oh, he made it and all that stuff. When I first saw the Vader mask in the trailer, that was the first time so far that I've been like, I don't know if we need that.
That makes sense because think about Vader as a martyr. If he were the leader, if it was General Patton and he died, there would be a cult around that guy. Like he would be a martyr. Like think about it. I don't know. We don't have generals necessarily that are that like visual, like
Storm and Norman
in the mainstream. But now, go back to World War II where you're talking about Patton and you're like, dude, if, or MacArthur or any of these amazing people that if they die, everyone would rise up and be like, no, fuck that. We're behind these guys. We're pushing forward with this tremendous amount of energy to win this war. So think about that. Like no one knew Vader was a good guy at the end. There's 3 people that were in that room at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, there was maybe a couple stormtroopers that were like, what's that dude doing, like carrying Vader into that ship? That's kind of weird, because he was like dragging him for like half a mile, probably using the Force to carry his body because it looked pretty heavy. It was all mechanical. But yeah, no one knew that Vader was bad.
Yeah,
or turned good at the end.
So I totally get that. I just like before I saw the trailer, and I love, like, that's great. It is a great story. I'm shocked that Vader even has anything to do with it. I would have thought they would have just let that be completely and just moved on.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but it is really fascinating to think that Vader has like a cult of personality now.
That's
like
awesome.
That's actually like when I saw that I was like, that's fucking awesome, because you were reading the rumors about, and I might be mixing up the rumors now or whatever, but like I was reading things, my brother was telling me about things about that female stormtrooper officer, Phasma, I think her name is like obsessed with Darth Vader apparently, and like that might be like their whole. That sect of stormtrooper might be like the Royal Guard, kind of like that's their thing, and they have the mask, like to me that's like fucking awesome.
That's cool. That's really cool.
You guys are misunderstanding what I'm saying. Like going into it, I would have been like, there's absolutely no way that they're gonna have like Vader, like it's gonna be its own thing. And then that was when I saw that, I was like, immediately I was like, Then upon second watching the trailer, and like after you finish the trailer and you get it all together, I'm just like, what you said is awesome. Like I love that they're doing that, and like seeing all the like the lightsabers and all this stuff, and like, is that Leia's hand? Is that Luke? Is that all? It's like, holy crap!
And just the VO, you brought it up to me, right? You were like, that's the same VO that was it Obi-Wan that said it before?
No, it's Luke. It's Luke talking to Leia in Jedi.
Oh, in Jedi, right? And then they just added a little bit on the end of it.
You have it too, one. Yeah. And there's all these questions I have. It's like when you listen to it, there's this weird echoing effect on all the lines except for one, on the end U. Like the new line, there is no echo on that.
Yeah, well, that's purposely done.
I know, but why?
Well,
I love it
stylistically, because when you echo something, it's like in the past, and then when it's not echoing anymore, it's in the present. He's saying that to someone in the movie that we're about to see.
Oh, it's cool.
It's dope. No, it's completely amazing. Also, how'd they get the mask? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's the bigger question.
How'd they get the mask? How'd they get the lightsaber? How'd they get it's just, that's what I'm saying, is like, I'm sure that it'll be fine, but like there's a lot of weird things where it's just like, what? So you found this over there and that over there and this over there, and it's all just
I'm going to throw this out at you because I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to pose this question. Vader was the apprentice to the Emperor, correct? In some way, shape, or form. Did he have an apprentice? Was there someone else that he was training that no one knew about?
Yeah, Starkiller.
It could be Kylo Ren.
Well documented in the video games.
Is it Starkiller?
No,
Sam Witwer.
It could be that Kylo Ren character, but the story about him apparently, and I don't know. Again, you don't know what's true, what's false with all these rumors. I just read them because they're fucking fascinating.
Yeah,
is like apparently he's like unaffiliated. Like he just hunts Jedi.
Who's this guy?
The guy with the red lightsaber and the mask, or whatever. Like apparently,
okay.
But it looks like in the trailers that he's quite affiliated because he's like with the stormtroopers. So I don't know. So that could be Vader's apprentice.
Yeah, that's one hell of a party that he got invited to. Where he's just like, I just showed up. There's 500 stormtroopers here. I don't know how they got here.
And there's one other cool scene in the trailers that a lot of people aren't talking about. And I have not blown it up or looked at. Maybe people have gone into it a little bit more. Greg pointed it out. In the scene with the stormtroopers, when you see the lightsaber and then Kylo Ren turns around or whatever, there's a character like in the background that looks like he's like sitting or standing at a podium like talking.
Oh yeah.
And I wonder like who that is. Because that could be the Grand Moff Tarkin or the character,
the new leader of the what do they call it? It's not the Empire anymore. What is it called now?
Are they not called the Empire anymore?
No, they announced new names for both sides. What are they?
Yeah, I guess you're not the rebellion anymore if you're winning.
The first order.
The Resistance, I think, was one of them.
The Resistance are the good guys. It was the rebels. The Resistance and the First Order is the Empire.
Which has probably another connotation to some degree that we don't know about. It's just...
And maybe that's Grand Admiral Thrawn.
That would be so dope.
How fucking cool.
Could you imagine if they actually threw that in and it was like no one knew about it? He just is there. You're like, oh, dope. I mean, it makes sense. You have to have that. It's not like someone randomly was like, oh, the Emperor's gone. I'll rise to power now. It had to have been someone who had a tremendous following and a tremendous stature or status in the actual military, right?
Yeah.
You can't just randomly be like, I guess I'll assume control of this vast empire.
Yeah, if the first
has to be an admiral.
Yeah, the Emperor and Vader are both killed, so 1 and 2 are killed.
Next,
so like, who's next?
What's his name's gone because he died on the first Death Star.
Yeah, Tarkin's gone. So and
It's Count Dooku's kid.
And Vader kills like he kills Admiral Piet. Or whatever that guy's name is,
Dooku.
the guy that comes back from Hoth.
Yeah, Vader's
him. So like,
iced his ass.
Yeah, so like, there's not a lot of
people. Not a great idea, by the way. Not a great strategy when you're fighting against a rebel alliance that's kicking your ass here and there. Is to kill all of your senior generals by way of choking them out.
Hey, they weren't getting it done.
Who's next? You fuck up my latte. Like, oh, Vader, dude. All we have is privates left.
Yeah.
There's no one left, guy.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's exciting and I'm hoping that it works out. You know, I'm not even. I feel like these are going to be good. Like I feel like we're going to be good.
That's the crazy thing. You watch these trailers, and my God, I don't think I've watched a trailer more times than that day. Like just throughout the day, I would check in, just watch it again.
Watch it again.
You know?
New scene.
And it's just like it's so cool, and like to think that we're getting a movie of that. We're getting 2 hours of that.
The trailer was what I wanted. I mean, as you know, as incredibly top level mainstream Star Wars fan, like that first teaser they showed, I was like, whatever. And everybody's like, I was freaking out about it. I was like, it didn't do much for me. But this one, I was like, this is awesome. Like I'm on board.
The only concern I have is that my only concern is the fact that they didn't choose to recast any of the original members, and they're not young anymore. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just Harrison Ford is probably the most spry out of the original 3 cast members that are coming back for this. Carrie Fisher, not so much, and Mark Hamill, I think he can get the job done, but I just don't know if they're going to come back and be those characters again. And I mean that in such that, like, when Harrison Ford reprised his role as Indiana Jones, it was really hard for me personally to not see Harrison Ford. It's just Harrison Ford playing Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. Versus when I watched it when I was a kid, I didn't really know who Harrison Ford was.
Yeah.
That was just Indiana Jones. Oh shit, that's Han Solo, right? Like that's who I knew. I didn't know Harrison Ford. I was like, what do I care? So now it's so. I think I want to see how they get around that, because even seeing him in that one shot, I'm like, it was kind of a glam shot. He looked real pretty for a guy that's been gallivanting around the universe for the last 30 years.
He looked great.
He looked great, but like,
You hear the rumors about them?
What's that?
Do you guys want to hear this?
Sure.
I don't know if
I think Colin already told me.
all right. Well, yeah, it's just that like they haven't been in the Millennium Falcon because they've just been cruising around in a Star Destroyer.
Really?
Yeah, they apparently like
How fucking cool is that?
Jack the Star Destroyer,
I want to jack the Star Destroyer.
which is amazing.
That's pretty awesome.
Because it seems like you would need hundreds of people just to drive the Star Destroyer or control it, but apparently
Maybe
not.
they
Chewie's
just- maybe they
It's
took
Ewoks.
over.
Just a bunch of Ewoks.
They got the Ewoks ran door.
Deb.
Yep.
So I mean,
You
that's
think we're
my
gonna
only
see Ewoks?
concern.
No. Well, yes, you will, but you won't like linger on them. They will pass for sure.
And
Will
it's
they
like-
blink though?
But you just
will.
see the way that Leia or Carrie Fisher sort of moves now, and how she is in real life, and you're like, I don't know if she can capture the wit that they had back in the day. Like they had that quick wit, that quickness of youth, that hunger for wanting to make this movie that they were in a huge success because it would launch their careers. When you hear Harrison Ford give interviews back when he was like, he talks about Star Wars and he's like, I thought it was just this random movie until I watched the premiere, until I sat there with the audience and I thought, yes, I can make a career out of this, and he did. But you know, I mean, yesterday I was watching Air Force One and I'm like,
No, get out of here, Nick.
Get off my plane.
Get off my plane.
How good? I love that so much.
But then you watch Indy and you're like, I don't know, man. I mean, and it was Spielberg making that film where you're like, what happened here? Like, what is the sort of approach that you need to take in order to get these characters back, or get these actors back in these characters that they haven't played in 30 years?
I think that's what they're doing with this. I think that they're going to have very limited parts that are written perfectly for them in situations that are going to make them feel like Han and not like Harrison.
I hope so.
And that,
Yeah, I think Tim's right. I think that you have to have these characters in there. It makes sense. I'm glad that they're not ignoring like the history or whatever. I was talking to my dad. First of all, I think some of these characters are going to die, and I think that maybe not in the first movie, but by the episode 9, some of these characters are gonna be dead.
Yeah, sure.
I feel it. You know, like
in your balls?
In my balls. Like Han Solo, you can see Han Solo dying. You see Luke dying. Well, and so like it's just get them from point A to point B. It's not about them. It's about Leia's daughter. It's about the rogue stormtrooper. It's about all like these different guys. They're like the set dressing that propels the story, I think. And I don't think that they necessarily, because I agree with you, like seeing Carrie Fisher on stage, like apparently she's like out of her mind, and that doesn't surprise.
She's fought a very long battle with addiction. It's very well noted. She's written books about it, and she's talked about like how like her life has not been exactly, you know, flowers and rainbows. So she's lived a hard life is all I'm saying. It will break my heart if it's not treated perfectly.
I think Tim's right. I think they know that. You can't the second that they're on screen too long and you remove the mystique of Princess Leia, or who I think is Queen Leia now, or you remove the mystique of of Chewbacca or whoever. Like not that Chewbacca's like you can put anyone in that suit, but you don't want them to stay too long. You know what I mean? You want them to have their pieces that are important. The story apparently is about Luke and Han, so I think that it's going to be more of them in the beginning and less of them by episode 9.
Well, like I want didn't Han at the end of the third one, wasn't he a general? Wasn't he General Solo, or was that in the books later?
Yeah, he was I think a general in the books.
Okay. Because that would be a fascinating role for him, or those people where they're like, they are the sort of leaders of the rebellion, and then we get the new cast that actually has to go do the dirty work. You know, we're like, who was the, pardon the ignorance, but who was the woman who played sort of the general at the end of Jedi, who's giving the speech? Or was that the beginning? Was that New Hope?
Yeah, Mon Mothma, I think you're talking about.
Is that Mon Mothma?
Yeah.
She's the one that sends Rogue.
Yeah, she's the one that's like many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Okay. And then who was it? Akbar was at the end, right?
Admiral Akbar was the
I mean, we can get another Akbar.
He needs
I would love if Akbar's in it. It would be pretty awesome.
I mean,
why not?
Why not?
The missing component, I still have hope that they're keeping the secret. Boss Nass, yes. Is where's Lando?
I know, man.
And I'm of two minds with this. One is what I was talking about earlier with 3PO and Anakin, right? You don't have to force everyone in. Maybe Lando's just fucking gone now, you know? And like maybe that's okay, but it doesn't quite feel right. Lando is a very important character, especially in Jedi. And why isn't he in it? Like I don't understand but maybe it's like more realistic thing where Lando's gone. You know?
I mean, that's the thing. I love that. I love the idea of like they were like, should we have Lando in it? No, because in Lando's world, he's a capitalist. He's a person who wants to capitalize off the situation. He's got a little fame. He blew up the Death Star. He's gonna go get Cloud City too.
I think they're making a Lando comic. That's just Lando. I'm pretty sure.
How badass would they do? Would it be if the third one-off movie was just called Lando? Just called Calrissian.
Star Wars anthology.
That would be so cool. I'd be like, I'm buying the ticket now. Can I buy
free idea for you?
That would be another awesome story. I mean, not that you would be able to do it because you'd have to have a young Billy D. Williams or like a fucking clone of him. But like, how did
it's Star Wars?
Like, and with Harrison Ford too.
How'd they meet?
How did they meet? The Millennium Falcon was Lando's ship.
Yeah.
And like they lost it in a bet, and then Lando goes to Cloud City. Like that's another story.
There is nothing as cool as Star Wars. There's fucking nothing as cool as Star Wars.
There really isn't, and it's because back in the day when George Lucas wrote those characters, he wrote very flawed characters, and he wrote characters that were fascinating, and he put them in this world that was fascinating, and like it begs more stories told. It's a big, robust world. That's all I'm gonna say.
Colin,
yes.
What's your topic?
So I went to Iceland the other day, and I've been overseas. I guess this is like my 4th time overseas, my 3rd time. No, 5th time. My 5th time overseas.
And I had offended you at yourself.
I had my
no.
I had my first, and I'm not counting Canada and all that shit. I had my first bout of real anti-Americanism in Iceland, like real to my face anti-Americanism. And I wanted to share the story with you guys, and then kind of talk about why it is that we are much maligned.
Obama.
Yeah. So here's the story. First of all, I want to preface it by saying that people in Iceland, for the most part, like with the exception of a few people, were awesome, like really nice people. A lot of them were very self-deprecating, like why are you even here, kind of thing. Like why would you ever come to this place? You know, like we want to go to U.S. I don't understand why you want to come here. Very nice people, very helpful people. English is fluently spoken there. It's mandatory to learn it. There's only 320,000 people in the entire country, which is unbelievable. That's half the population of San Francisco. And it's about a state the size of Kentucky. So you imagine like when you're in Reykjavik, it's a thriving city. About half the population lives there, and then the rest of the country is just
sparse,
just very sparse.
Yeah.
Beautiful place though, very desolate, very dark, very snowy. So I went to a bar. We were just like going from bar to bar, like just going from random places, and we it's me and Cheryl, and then two of our friends from really Cheryl's friends from our high school, and then their boyfriends. Well, actually, one husband and one boyfriend. So 4 of us went to high school together, and then a 5th guy is from Long Island, and then 6th guy is from Utah. Mm-hmm. And we go into this bar and we're just drinking or whatever. This is the weird dichotomy of the stories. These really nice older women are sitting around this table. And we're kind of encroaching a little bit on their space, but they're slowly getting up. And I sit down in someone's seat, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to shit." She's like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We're leaving." And she puts her hand on very warmly puts her hand on my arm, and is like, "I don't, like, please sit, and we're getting out of here." And I was like, "Oh, it's like really nice.
What a nice old lady."
And so that crew of ladies leaves, and we sit down around this table, and there's this older blonde woman, maybe in her 50s, very well dressed,
hot.
She's pretty.
This is the Golden Girls bar. There's all the old women around drinking.
It was just after work, I think, when everyone's just like kind of hanging out. And that was the one thing I noticed in Iceland, is that because the city's so small in Reykjavik or whatever, like there's just people of all ages in a lot of just same areas, like because that's where they hang out. Mm-hmm. There's only so many bars, so many restaurants and shit. And we sit down and we're just kind of coddling around, and I go to the bathroom, and then I come back, and this blonde woman's talking to my group or whatever, and she's asking them, like, who invited you to sit here, like kind of like rudely or whatever. And she's like, "You were not invited to sit here or whatever, and that's how we do it here." And I'm like, "We were invited to sit here," and we had this kind of exchange. And the conversation goes where like the woman's like giving us an attitude, and she's like, "Where are you from?" or whatever. And we're like, "Where?" And one of my friends is like, "Where do you think we're from?" And she rolls her eyes. She's like, "The United States," or whatever like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, where specifically do you think we're from?" And she goes like this. She's like, "In the South," like as an insult.
Oh, yeah.
And this is my first thing where I'm like, I am so sick of the anti-South shit in this country. I really am. The South has a really fucked up history. So does the entire country. Mm-hmm. It's time to kind of move on. I know a lot of very warm and very nice people from the South, very smart people from the South. I am sick of all the anti-South rhetoric. That's just an aside. But she was saying that to us to insult us.
Uh-oh.
And then
you know what happens to people who talk shit, guys.
And the funny thing is that this 5 of them are kind of just engaging with her and trying to be nice, and I'm being like really fucking rude to her. And what I realized was that like she was being the nicest to me because I was challenging her or whatever. But she would do things like she went and shook Cheryl's hand, said her handshake like wasn't firm enough or whatever, and was
she wasted or no?
God damn, this is very intrusive.
And then she was saying how she's like one of the last Viking families, and like it's just a weird, totally weird shit. Obviously, Iceland has a long Viking history, but like 1,000 years. But she's not the last Viking. I mean, look around. So it then gets to the point where she's talking about how she lived in Boston for a little while or whatever, and so on. And then she's like making fun of like the way we're dressing and why we're here, and like we don't belong, like basically don't belong there, and like why would anyone come here, and like you're basically not invited, you're not welcome in Iceland, kind of shit or whatever, like just straight up like anti-Americanism, like to my face. Like, I've never experienced that before. I've been to Germany, I've been to England, I've been to Japan, like never had a problem really with anyone based on just who I am. And I get like really combative with her. And actually like Cheryl's friends thought it was like the best because like they don't really know me like that. You guys know me well enough to know that like I'm going to say something to you.
Someone's getting shot.
So she was like, why would you pick Iceland? I'm like, because it's really cheap to get here. And she like kind of just looked at me as opposed to saying like, oh, it's a beautiful country. I'm like, it's just really cheap. We got here for like nothing.
Yeah.
And she was like, and I was saying something to her like, I'm like, you really should be nicer to tourists. Your economy depends on us. And she's like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. You should learn your history. In my mind, I'm like, what does that have to do with history? And I'm like, I have a degree in history from a very good school. I know my history. Your economy collapsed 4 years ago, and your economy is entirely dependent on foreign money, and the economy is based on tourism. So maybe you should be not like everyone else has been nice to us. Why are you busting our balls or whatever? And then she was like making fun. Like she said something so weird where like we were all wearing beanies. And this was the weirdest comment. She's like, no, people would beat the shit out of you if they saw you wearing these beanies around here or whatever. And you notice that in Iceland, a lot of people like pretend like it's not fucking 10 degrees outside. Like it's really actually quite fascinating the way they just walk around. But people are wearing beanies all over the fucking place. So I'm like, what? And we actually walked out the next day and like saw a bunch of kids playing in the snow like with beanies on them.
You should have kicked their ass.
Yeah,
you should have
exactly.
just beat the shit out of them.
So drag their bloody bodies.
So it was
just
just
like, is this what you want?
It was just a weird. It was just a weird thing. And then she was making fun of our fashion or whatever. And someone's like, but you follow our fashion, like American and Western European fashion is like the fashion of the world basically. Yep. And she's like, no. she's like, we are way ahead of you, or like stuff like that. And this is the best part. I'm leaving out parts because I don't want to belabor the story, but my favorite part of it was that she got up and she had blue jeans on, and I'm like, those blue jeans are American, and like I keep confronting her, and she keeps complimenting me. She's like, I really like your glasses. That was the last thing she said to me, and then she like walked away, like almost like
sounds like this chick was just hammered.
nice
yeah, she was hammered, but nonetheless, I wanted to just bring up this thing just to tell the story. Also, the 5 people that I were with, or 4, because Cheryl doesn't really watch the show, will probably be watching this, and I want to give them a shout out because we had a great time. But also just kind of recount this story. I don't think I'm leaving out anything too important, because the reason I wanted to tell this story was to ask, like, if you've ever had encounters like this overseas, and why we're looked at as like such a bad group of people to like some people. I think most people know Americans are just like you in England or in India or in Japan. Like, it doesn't matter. But there's like a real anti-American sentiment that is real, and I didn't really think it was real until I experienced it for myself. It was very uncomfortable. It was a very uncomfortable and very real experience where I'm like, this woman is being super fucking rude to us because of where we're from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which, could you imagine if that were the case here, where if every country we had a problem with, we were just rude to the people from that country? It'd be chaos. It'd be chaos. I've never had anti-American. I've never had anyone sort of have prejudice against me for being American, but I can understand. Like, I still hold that this country is the best country on the planet, largely because of the citizens that are in it that help run it. But our political structure is screwed up. Our foreign policy is like laughable. I mean, every day we criticize Russia and our any of our enemies in the Middle East or in Europe for doing these crazy things, and we kind of do similar things. I'm not saying we're going out there and like funding terrorism, but you look at our history over the past 30 years, and it's crazy the shit that the United States government has funded. And so there's no wonder that their people don't like us, because we have a history of putting our nose in places where it doesn't belong for, let's be perfectly honest, profit, for gain, and for the gain of mostly our politicians that are involved in this stuff, right? I'm not saying that we deserve any of the sort of ire that we get across the world, but I don't think that our media, I don't think we're doing a lot to sort of dispel those things. And I think that, the country as a whole could be better. Let's just put it that way. I mean, you've said so yourself, like our foreign policy is just, especially Obama's foreign policy is just completely ridiculous. And I don't like any of the candidates that are coming up. I mean, our political system's screwed. We don't have any, it's either a Republican or a Democrat, and they're all jokes. They're all jokes. So the 2016 election is hilarious, right? There's nothing that can interrupt this system. There's no end in sight. So
I don't think
what
that's
are we
why
supposed
people
to do?
don't like us, though. I think it's
exactly why people don't like us.
Not because then
we're
there's
looked
no
at
candidates coming up, or because of what's happening on the ground with the political system.
No, because our political party enables us to go start wars in random places without really that much pushback. Like we can just go invade another country whenever we want, and then Russia does it, and we're like, "What are you doing?"
I think that's also just who we are, though, as a people that does it. It's the stereotype, right? You said, imagine if people came here and we hated them or were mean to them. And people have done that. People probably have stories. There's stories, this is what happens when you paint with a broad brush, right? Mm-hmm. But the broad brush of a stereotype of American is someone similar to me, but maybe not as nice, who's big, loud, obnoxious, comes over there, doesn't know where New Zealand is, doesn't give a flying fuck that he doesn't, because he's from the greatest country on earth, and he will tell you about it, and he will say that over and over again. And that puts a chip on people's shoulder. Not to mention the fact that, like, in a lot of ways, America is leading the charge. There is that, too. So there is an envy on certain things. Obviously not education. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, there is a thing that, like, it's back to that newsroom thing from the newsroom, that first scene you ever saw, right? Where, like, Jeff Daniels unloads on that lady of, like, why America isn't the greatest country. But we never talk about that. We just say we are. And we believe it. And
that's all you got to do. You just fucking say you are something and everyone else believes it.
Internet superstars.
Yeah, that's how things happen. I've never experienced it because I've never been out of the country. So I haven't experienced that, but I have experienced just being here when I like meet people from other places, because I am also, like Greg, a perfect example of what people don't like about America.
Yeah.
And I don't know shit about a lot of things. And they're very quick to point that out. I'm like, well, you're kind of an asshole for that then. But that doesn't hold up with them. But like I have a lot of friends from like just the UK who I'll see randomly, and they just I feel like I'm constantly being judged. Everything, always, with this very specific people. Some people have been very nice, but like there's this one guy who's every move I make, every order at a restaurant is always like, of course you ordered that. It's like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, why you gotta be like that?
What do you get in the party platter or something?
Fucking cheeseburger.
Fatty?
It's always a
cheeseburger.
But it's just like, of course you get a cheeseburger. You're such an American. It's like, well, I don't know what to
You're
tell
goddamn
you, dude.
right I am,
It's
and I'm
really
proud
good.
of it.
I mean, I feel like we get a lot. I don't want to. You're right. I don't want to speak in broad strokes. So I'm going to talk about myself here a little bit. I feel like I am uneducated when it comes to politics, largely, especially global politics. I feel like because our country is so big, it's hard enough just keeping up what's going on in the United States, let alone the rest of the world. Yeah. Because you have to also remember, like you said, like most of these countries can fit in the United States. Actually, what is it, like half of Europe can fit in the United States? I forget how big the continents are. I may have made that up completely.
Oh, I think all mainland Europe could fit, with the exception of Russia and the United States.
Yeah. So I mean, think about that. Like we have our own. So there's, our own world that we have to worry about that's got its own flaws. And then, of course, we go to these other countries and we're completely, I'm completely ignorant of their politics, their traditions, and any of the sort of colloquialisms that would endear them to me. So when I go over there, I'm a jackass too. And it's like, well, there's this guy not knowing and not understanding our customs and not trying to understand our customs. Because there is that too. Like my wife, when she goes to travel, she'll make an honest effort to understand the culture. And that's, it's still not 100%, but at least it's 2 or 3% more than I'm putting in. Whenever I go anywhere. When I go to Germany, I'm just like, oh, cool, Germany. I make some probably off-color remarks about German sausages and leave it at that. That's as far as I go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that we have to separate the kind of cartoon image of the American, like that's kind of like not beloved, but like lovable, where it's like, oh, you're fat and you like cheeseburger, whatever it is, or whatever, and from like the real harshness of what I experienced, because I've experienced like the comical, like, oh, you're an American kind of thing, and I'm like, yeah, I am, I'm proud of it, but like this particular encounter in Iceland was like quite hostile, and to me it was like, I get it, I do get it. I don't think sometimes people put themselves into our shoes, and I think you kind of brought it up, Nick, where it's like we are a self-contained world kind of in the United States, and I don't think it's not the nature of our own bravado or our own arrogance. It's the nature of being a really big country. Mm-hmm. With a
millions of how many do we have?
320 million people in this country.
Not even.
We're not like India but India and China might very well be the same, where that's their world. Yeah. Now like one thing I realized in Iceland when I was there, because they import everything, they have nothing there like naturally except for like some minerals and stuff like that, is like their supermarkets are like sparse. Like they don't like I went into a few, like, just I like going to supermarkets in other countries, like that's like one of my favorite things to do, because it's just like what are they eating, what are they a little bit of produce, a little bit of like super expensive meat and stuff like that, and I'm like, we take a lot of things for granted here, that I can go into the supermarket that's fucking massive and buy whatever the fuck I want, you know what I mean, whatever I want, and they're like every 2 blocks, It's like some parts of being overseas that made me thankful for being an American, because we are really a land of plenty, because we're so domestically kind of we have like a domestic charge where we're basically able to kind of like feed ourselves and stuff, at least with food, not so much with manufactured items. But I think people don't put themselves into our shoes sometimes, where it's like we are ignorant as a people of the rest of the world because we don't really have the necessity of needing to know or go to these other places, and that's not an arrogant thing. That's just because there's so many of us here.
Yeah,
it's not like we're from the Netherlands or whatever, where it's like a small country and you like have to try not to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this is what I've always taken up too, of like just the fact of being in Italy or France, and like when you say we're going to another country, for us that's a huge plane ride, and it's a fucking train ride. You know what I mean? It's so easy to be in France. I think you told a story, or wherever you were, in Germany or France or wherever, or London, and you were Goldfarb wanted to go somewhere.
Oh yeah, we were in Germany and Goldfarb was like, let's just go to France.
Yeah, it's like that's a real thing that could happen. Yeah, whereas here it's like so much production to go anywhere that it's the same way when I explain to somebody. When I am overseas or talk to somebody who's from overseas and I'm trying to explain something about, I went to Mizzou, and then I start having to break it out, like, okay, well, you know Missouri, the states, this, I go like that to get bigger and bigger and bigger to try to show you what I'm talking about, right? And that's just this thing when it's like we're saying how small some countries are compared to what the United States is. Yeah,
it doesn't make them better or worse. It's just like that's just the nature of growing up American.
Yeah,
And I feel like some people kind of turn on us as not being cultured, and that's fine if that's the way people feel. And I agree. I think as a people, we're not cultured. Yeah. But I think there's a flip side to the coin, is that we are global culture. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't want to admit to. You know what I mean? Is that one thing I couldn't believe in Iceland, and Reykjavik's not like there's tourists there, but it's not. It is what it is. That place is fucking American. You know what I mean? Like. It's not
at least westernized.
Like, dude, like, I went to the nicest restaurant in Iceland. I don't remember the name of it. We went there. It was fucking super expensive. It was awesome. it was all like Americana. They like beautiful, these great chicken wings and these kebabs and steaks and all. It was awesome. And then you go to, there's burger places everywhere. And, you know, it's not to say, like, what I'm saying is that we've given so much to the world. And I think people kind of take that for granted too. A lot of the music a lot of people listen to overseas, or movies or TV shows they listen to, are American.
It's just Kanye. They only listen
it's
to
just
Kanye.
It's like, you know, the way a lot of people dress and the way the actors that people might imitate, or the movies that they might be. Well, it's not to say that Europe's not creating great things, or Asia's not creating great things, or Northern Africa or Africa. Or whatever. It's that we really are the epicenter of culture in a broader sense. We don't have an old culture. We don't have a refined culture.
We have a pop culture.
We have a pop culture.
Well, it's really weird. It's really weird
yeah.
when you see like K-pop music videos, and then they're all wearing like these weird mixes of like things that were in 90s hip hop videos. And you're like,
or there's
what?
a breakdown of an English version where they start talking in English. Like,
All that stuff too, yeah. But it's just so weird that they'll be wearing like basketball jerseys and holding up WWE championships. And you're like, huh? Like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
Turns out that rap was all about 1997
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's usually
SummerSlam.
It's not.
Well, I mean, with fashion, you know, fashion is one of those interesting things that like could be a topic all to its own, because generally a lot of the fashion trends start in Europe and then they trickle out here, and then we kind of bounce back to the rest of the world. That's my sort of layman's understanding of how that all works. But yeah, when they have Fashion Week, when they'll have Fashion Week in Milan, all of the big designers will get together and talk about what the next year is going to basically be, and that's essentially what we see. Those trickle to New York first, and then to New York and LA first, and then I don't know how they get disseminated to the rest of the world.
Kanye.
European and Asian fashion has always been sort of like they kind of
Like
find
Santa.
it and put their own twist on it. But I agree with Colin. It's unfortunate that our pop culture is the culture that we sort of export to the rest of the world. It didn't used to be that way. I feel like we used to be a lot more conscious of the world, especially when we were fighting wars like Vietnam or we were in the Cold War. Like, I think it's because often we didn't have the internet, and so there wasn't that thing that pulled all of our attention away, right? We just had newspapers, and potentially someone was going to drop a nuclear bomb on us at any given time. So that was kind of like, hey, pay attention to what's going on in the world, because Russia might, by way of Cuba, launch some nukes at us.
I'm so happy that's just not how it is now.
I mean,
It's just BuzzFeed lists.
it still is, but we just
We're too busy with BuzzFeed lists and know what's going on.
to care about it. Like I was talking to Colin earlier, it's like a lot of people are saying that we're in the middle of a second Cold War with Russia, which I think is almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you start saying that, then it becomes true.
Stop saying it then. You're the problem.
But I will say this: I'm disappointed with myself that I
problem
don't.
solver.
I'm disappointed with myself that I don't know a lot about. Like, I think the average American should at least have sort of a cursory knowledge of what's happening in countries where we're fighting wars, where we're sending Americans to go and die in. And it's disappointing to myself every time I learn about what's happening in, Afghanistan, or what's happening in Iraq, or what's happening in Syria, or what's happening, between, Palestine and whoever Palestine's pissed off at, which I'm assuming is always Israel.
Yeah.
Tale
as to old as time.
See, even there, I'm hesitant to say Palestine and Israel because I don't want to get that wrong, because I'm not quite sure exactly what that history is. But it is disappointing that we're sending countless Americans over there to defend something that I'm not even sure why they're going over there, or what the kerfuffle is all about. We should know that. Like, we're spending trillions of dollars in defense money to go all around the world and do these things, and I don't have a fucking clue why we're doing most of that, except the only thing that I hear over and over again is because someone has an oil interest there. And so we're allying there to have sort of strategic stronghold for oil.
That's probably the reason why we're in a lot of places. But yeah, it's like the point I'm trying to get to, I think, is that when I go to other countries, I've been really fast. I read a voracious amount about other places, especially when I'm going there. And I like to learn about them, and I like to learn about what they do. And I know that, like, I'm the doofy American in a lot of these places, especially Japan, where it's like, I don't speak Japanese, and I'm sorry. Like, I try to at least be humble about it. And I couldn't imagine speaking to a tourist in the United States the way I was spoken to in Iceland by that woman. You know what I mean?
I can't believe she spoke to you. Like, out of all the situations, out of all the tourists, it was Colin Moriarty that got this talk.
She picked the wrong.
That's so funny.
Italian
yeah, and I was super combative with her, and I definitely, hurled some insults at her, and I'm not sorry about it. But like and it definitely amused Cheryl's friends. But because they again never saw that, like, they don't know me well enough to know that that's like pretty much everyday Colin. But what like I try to go with an appreciation to other places and learn about them. One of the things I think about is like I hate the fucking TSA, right? Like whenever they go through my shit, I give them like just a
I know I've traveled with you.
Yeah, but when I went to Germany, they went through my bags. I didn't say anything. I'm like, I'm in your country now. You know, like you're letting me in, and this is the way it's gonna go, I guess. And
I quote as Colin what goes through every single time: "Have fun violating my civil rights. Have fun." What is it you say? You're like, this was not in the Declaration. No,
it's an illegal search and seizure. It's the Fourth Amendment.
It's hilarious.
But I just, I understand that some Americans go around the world or just talk on Twitter or whatever and beat their chest and are like, we're the best. And I do agree with Nick. I do think we are like the best in a lot of ways. But that's just me being like a home fan, like a home team fan.
Yeah.
And like, it's just, I wish that people would put the shoe on the other foot and kind of realize like, okay, you feel this way about us, but why do you think that we're like this? And why do you think that like maybe you have a kind of a comic book image of us, but maybe we're just like you, But
I mean, like you're just talking about being racist or bigoted in any way. I mean, look at how people have talked and thought about French people forever. Oh, they smell and this and we berets and shit. Like it's the same thing. Like, that exists everywhere. Oi. Horrible Australian impressions. We had one man. He was a godsend named Steve Irwin, and we based our impression on him. Paul Hogan somehow too. No, I mean it's everywhere. Right. It's every country. It's every culture.
You're right. It's just unfortunate because I see American culture so much in other people. When they're on their I've said it before on Twitter, is that people on their iPhones, on Twitter or Facebook, listening to Kanye and watching the Kardashians on TV, and I'm like, dude, that's all American. Now you can hate us all you want, as you're on your MacBook, on your Chrome browser, Googling something. But like, think about the irony of that. You know what I mean? Like, we give a lot to the world, and that's the one thing that like I want people to just. It doesn't make us better. It just means that like when I have encounters like this, I'm just confused by them because. We've done bad things, but we've done great things. And I wish that we could just kind of focus more on the great things. There's so much divisiveness. And it was startling for me to experience it firsthand. I was like, I almost thought that like people really didn't feel that way about us, But then I experienced it.
I think people,
And I'm not saying everyone feels that way. Again, most people in Iceland were very nice.
Yeah, and I've encountered a ton of people that love America, want to visit America, like what we stand for, like the culture, and like what we export. But I do think that, my overall feeling is that I think more people would be able to tell you more facts about the Kardashians than the war in Iraq. That would be my general feeling. Like if I asked 10 Americans, give me 10 facts about Iraq, they would probably be able to name all the Kardashian sisters, what the shows are that they're in, who they were married to, and what their kids are named, before they could tell me 10 facts about Iraq.
That's an endemic Western problem, though, I think, because I think that if you England was involved in the Iraq War for a long time, and they would have the same problem. I don't believe for a second that the English are more politically active than we are. We're all fucking, apathetic at this point, and it's sad.
It's sad.
But the one thing that we can, I want people to come to the United States. I want them to enjoy it here. I want them to have good experiences. Horror, what Greg said is true, and what you guys were insinuating was true. I am sure that there are foreigners that came to the United States that will never come back here because of an experience they had here. Because there are assholes all over the fucking place. When you have 320 million people, millions of them are going to be assholes. Millions of them. So like, it's just
imagine being anywhere from the Middle East, looking any sort of Middle Eastern and coming here with the 8-month span of after 9/11. Just think about that. Think about what you may have encountered coming into JFK.
I like how you limited it to 8 months.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, no one, well, they didn't, they limited travel for what? Like, I think that.
I would say just any time in the last 14 years.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
I mean, like, this
imagine
is
coming in and out of security. Now, even if you're a citizen of the United States and you're Middle Eastern, like, we have a lot of.
Stereotypes suck. And that's the long and short of it. And, like, having to pay for past mistakes sucks. And, like, the fact that, what, you think of a German, right? Like, there's still World War II. Well, I was trying to think of this for this reference. Remember during 50 Shades of Grey, there were 2 trailers that were back to back where I was like, man, if you're a German in here, you just got punched twice.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were both like, man, Germany sucks. And it's like, fuck, you know what I mean? Just because they're still harping on everything that happened over there generations ago. And that's just how this goes and how stereotypes are.
That's a great example. Like, German guilt is a real thing. There's a German word for it. I don't know what it is. But, like, that's a real thing, but like we often have to let go of the sins of the past and the sins of the father. And that's kind of the same way for us in terms of history. Mm-hmm. Now we can talk about the positive things we did with history. We revived small R Republican democracy that spread all over the fucking world. We did that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and so there are things in our history also that we can be proud of. But the thing that I walked away from this being is that like I have to be more worldly. I have to judge people as individuals, which I judge this woman by, and not by the Icelandic people, for instance, which were really extraordinarily nice to us, except for that one instance. And kind of have some sort of like we're all the same. Like I want people to come here and enjoy the fruits of America, and I want to go over there and enjoy the fruits of England or enjoy the fruits of France or whatever, or China or Japan. There's way too much divisiveness, and anti-Americanism is real. But maybe to Greg's point, it's not any faker or more real than anti-French sentiment, or anti-Korean sentiment or whatever you might have. So I mean, that's a good point. And I think it's just because
I feel like it is though. I feel like we get.
Oh man,
we do so much more in the world than the French do, and so there's so much more left open for people to criticize us based on. Like, how many places is the United States military right now, as opposed to the French military, as opposed to the Italian military, or even England? Like, we're everywhere, man. We've got bases everywhere, and we won't shut any of them down for strategic advantage.
This whole "we" thing is so weird to me.
You have to say it though, because we pay for this.
And
I'll tell you, what was that statistic? You said 50% of the budget goes toward the military. Think about that. How much is the national budget?
3.2 trillion or something like that.
That's a lot of cash that we're putting out there to keep our 18-year-olds in foreign countries with guns, asking them to fight people that they don't.
That's
really
the general
understand.
budget, not the.
That's true. Military budget. Well, the military budget would be half of that, then 50%. The defense budget, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to bring this topic up. I thought it was an interesting topic. We have a lot of European listeners and just Australian listeners and Asian listeners and people from all over the world. Israel. And I'm curious in the comments too how they feel and like what their encounters were. I wanted to kind of solicit that as well, because maybe they've had the bad experiences we were alluding to, where maybe they come to the States and are treated. But the one thing I told my group when I was there, and we all agreed, was that I couldn't imagine talking to anyone like that. Not only a traveler or a foreigner or whatever in the United States, someone who's just here, anyone. And I think that's the difference between. Now, if you come at me, my friends, I'll fucking knock you out. You know what I mean?
Talk shit, get shot.
That's like a different, that's a different kind of situation. You talk shit to Greg or anyone like that.
Right.
But I'm not going to instigate things with you.
But do you feel like it was bigger than this, or do you feel like it was on the level of my team's playing your team and we're just going to start throwing random facts at each other to piss each other off?
No, I think that it was in the moment pretty real, and in hindsight pretty real.
Really?
And I don't know if I did it justice about how fucked up it was. I've also thought about it so much that you lose sight of what specifically happened, and I was so amped up.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's
that,
like a perfect situation where you're
I know. Like, you waited your whole life for that moment to fight for America.
I'll never be able to fight on the battlefield. That's the best I could do in some fucking bar in Iceland.
That's awesome.
But nonetheless, I wanted to just bring that up there. Like, people, as far as I'm concerned, people are welcome to this culture. People are welcome. American culture is truly a melting pot. We don't have a deep 1,000-year history like the Icelandic people do, for instance, but we have a history of melding different races and different cultures and different ethnicities and religions together, and it made something uniquely American. No one can deny the success of this country, and no one can deny the success of this country's pop culture, which is everywhere. Maybe for the worse, but we all enjoy it and enjoy the fruits of America anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to throw that out there, solicit other people's opinions on their experiences, what their opinions are on this. You can let us know in the comments, or you can tweet at me, of course. I'm always happy to talk about it. But I do want to say, again, as I prefaced it, my experiences otherwise overseas in the countries I've been in have been nothing but positive. And people have been really nice to me. And I know I'm the doofy American in Germany walking around saying, the first thing I say is, I don't speak German. And they're probably like, hello, I speak English because I live on a continent where we know 3 or 4 languages,
Yeah. Well, as a general note, the first thing you should always learn when you go to another country is how to say please and thank you.
Oh, I mean, I know how to say those things, but when you're having a conversation at a restaurant or something like that, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to we were reading Icelandic terms, and one of the guys there was trying to learn things, and I'm like, I'm not even going to bother, because I'm going to butcher and insult these people. Yeah. I'm going to say something totally wrong, then to get us killed or something like that. So,
I went to Thailand, and it took me 4 days to figure out how to say thank you, it's different depending on the whether it's masculine or feminine, like you're talking to. The gender. I can't remember how to do it, but it's like that. And same with Japan. Japan is you can't not be a caricature of an American in Japan. because it's such a culture shock where you're like, what the fuck is happening all the time? And people are looking at you because you're the one white dude in the sea of Japanese guys, and you're just like, what a fucking idiot this guy is. Look at him, he's smoking there. He can't smoke there. You feel like a fish out of water, but in a good way. And I think all of us, the more you travel, like Tim, you should get out there and travel. It's important to feel
all the stuff makes me sound like I'm just gonna stay here and not insult people.
No, I mean, I feel like it's important to go to other countries and be in those and have those experiences where you're like, wow, I'm an American in a foreign country. It's a good experience to have.
My topic comes from patreon.com/kindafunny. It's from Corey Simpson. Corey Simpson writes in and says he's glad he can help out. I was wondering if I can email you a short video along with my topic. The video is of an EVP, electronic voice phenomenon, I got while driving home by myself one night that is extremely clear. If you let me, I'll explain in the email. I'd love to see what you think of it. Maybe provide your best idea of an explanation. So he's talking about ghosts coming through his radio. Okay. So this is his video here. It's titled "Real Ghost EVP Caught While Driving." So like pause that, drive that back, do this, click that. No, well, that's not what I wanted. There you go. Turn it up here. This is an ad. That's Dave Fenoy, but that's an ad.
Dave Fenoy still doing a lot of work. Good job, Dave.
Good job, Dave. Now, here's the EVP. He's singing. Wait till tomorrow. Fuck.
You got support from the diaphragm, bro.
And Nick talked right over the part where the EVP happened. Hold on. Fuck. So I'll pass it around for everybody else to hear it. It's basically like,
and how funny would it be if this motherfucker just sent us a video? Hey, I think there's a ghost, and it's just, hey, I'm a ghost.
His email goes like this. First things first, I know I'm not going to win a Grammy, so I get it that I suck. But this is how it happened. I was driving home from work alone around 8:30 p.m. on an empty back road in eastern North Carolina. No houses or anything around, no radio or anything. I play guitar and wanted to learn to sing and play at the same time, so to see what I sound like singing, I had my earbuds in listening Tomorrow by Silverchair on my iPod. I was recording on my phone to hear myself. When I listened back, I almost crapped myself. I have a brother named Jonathan, so that makes it scarier. He's a fine man, but something I'll never forget. So I guess he's thinking this ghost says Jonathan. So let's play it again.
That was freaky. I heard Jonathan at that point. But I mean, here's the deal. What are we supposed to glean from this? Is it that
he wants real? He wants our opinion on electronic the EVP.
I've never heard of this term.
Really?
No.
Oh, see, now growing up after Ghostbusters, there was a stage in my life as a little kid where I was going to be a paranormal investigator. So I bought all the Hans books. I forget his names. I don't want to say his last name.
Hans Zimmer.
It wasn't him. No, it wasn't Hans Gruber. It wasn't Hans Solo. It was with a Z. Anyways, he had all these books about real ghosts and how it was, and like his investigations and poltergeists and all that stuff. EVP, is when you let something just go in an empty room or whatever and listen. Then you listen back and try to pick up voice phenomena. Sightings covered this very well, of course. Everybody remembers Sightings, the ghost alien show on Fox. It was amazing. It scared the hell out of me.
I don't believe in ghosts. So
yeah,
I don't think that's this goes back to our whole religion and God thing, man.
Sure.
It's all interconnected, and I don't believe in a spirit or a soul. So
you don't believe in your own soul?
No.
Okay.
I believe that I have a personality and a brain and stuff like that, but I don't think that I have like a
beautiful. Both are beautiful.
Nick confirms personality.
I don't think I have
brain.
like a transcendent, some sort of spiritual thing in me. I don't think that.
Yeah.
So sure.
Kara was like super into all this like ghost hunting stuff, and like she watched all the shows and like was super into it. I think when she was on the show, her topic was ghosts. We talked about that, and like she would make me watch so much of this. And it's just like, it would be all this, where it's just like, they're in the room, did you hear that?
Yeah.
And then like they rewind and they play stuff back, and it's like, if you noticed, it sounds like they said this.
Yeah.
This was the name of this person who died in this building. It's just like, this is so contrived. This is keeping up with the Kardashians. How do you believe this? Like,
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. You're just entertained by it. Like, oh, wouldn't that be crazy?
Yeah.
It's so creepy. It's just like, I don't get it. Because like this, to me, I hear that, and it's like, all right, even if it does sound like Jonathan, to me, all that is, all right, there's radio interference or something. Like,
yeah.
What I want to know is when you're on the phone and all of a sudden you start only hearing yourself, and then you hear like random other conversations.
That's
what's
weird.
That about?
Yeah, that's weird.
But then again, what's that about? That's just okay. There's
Signals
different lines.
Science.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Science.
I mean, it's the same when we had a topic a while back, like what would it take for you to believe in God? or in Jesus. And someone, I think the person that asked the question was like, would that person need to show up in front of you? Even if it's almost a moot point at this juncture. Bigfoot, all these things, because I'm never gonna believe it. Because I know how I mean, look at freaking any movie that comes out right now. It's photo. I saw a Fiat commercial yesterday. I was like, wait, those aren't real cars. Like, it's so easy to make this stuff, to replicate this shit. A kid with the full Adobe suite, Cinema 4D, and Google can figure out how to do this shit.
It took Colin seeing the droid actually on stage to believe it was real.
That it was real, right? Like, so
I didn't believe that was real until I saw it.
I mean, I'm sure by the way, I'm sure a lot of the movie, like, he's probably fake, because they're probably like, oh man, I can't get the fucking gyros to go. Just comp him in. At a certain point, you got to kind of call a spade a spade. But yeah, I mean, with that stuff, like, my gut is just like, why? I mean, I would have just added that in to screw with us. That's what my first impression is.
It's a pretty empty excuse of why you're filming yourself and all this stuff. And like, spoiler, you're not a good singer. Why would you play guitar and sing?
I like how now we're straight up calling this fool out.
He knows he's not a Grammy winner. I'm just saying, but it's a weird thing.
He definitely doesn't have the range or the tone. but
neither do I.
Neither do I. Yeah, I mean, I play drums and bass. I don't pretend to know how to sing. I agree with Nick in the sense that, like, this stuff was much more alluring
back in the day,
in the pre-even computer era.
Everyone has a fucking phone.
Yeah,
now.
like,
why have we not seen Bigfoot?
So I am 100% certain that that's nothing. And I'm not saying he doctored it. I believe that he believes it's something.
Yeah.
But I think that to Nick's point, like, you can't really believe much of anything anymore. And this goes back to that conversation you brought up about God and all that kind of stuff. If there were ghosts and stuff like that, we would have conclusive evidence by now that there were ghosts. Just like we'd have conclusive evidence that there's fucking Bigfoot, but there's not Bigfoot and there aren't ghosts. You know what I mean?
What gets crazy about this though is, like, people have these experiences and they're like, they swear by it, and it's just like, they're like, this happened, I don't know what to tell you, and it's like, this happened, I can feel this, I know this, and it's like, it's so hard to argue it because you're just like, you're wrong, and it's like, no, you're not.
But
and that's it. That's where that ends.
It's not even worth arguing about anymore, because imagine if there were daily aliens visiting the Earth, right? And people were capturing that and putting them up on YouTube. We would all think it's fake. We'd be like, nah, it's so easy. Oh, I know how to do it with After Effects and like the Glow plugin. Boom. Light across the sky.
Yeah.
Easy. It's done, right? Like, it must be easier now more than ever to cover up anything by the United States government, because all I can do is say fraud and no one can prove it.
It's
and by the way, by the time we're done disproving that or anything like that, I mean, it could be months. We're on to the next 50 things that we're talking about. You know, we have the attention span of children that just raided a fucking candy store these days. Like, they're just snorting Twix bars. And they're just going at it, right? You know what I mean?
But that's who we are. Like, the caramel, that just doesn't sound good.
Maybe they're mashing them up, bro.
Well, even if you mash it,
Why
like,
don't you just snort a pixie stick?
Maybe they're snorting a pixie stick. But you guys understand, like, it's so hard to keep up with shit that is real. And then, like, you know, like you start trying to dig into real news, and you're like, I don't even know what the credible news sources are anymore. Let alone, like, if people are editorializing, it's just
news and entertainment have crossed over.
They're just like, you know, like, look at Fox News. It's just. It's crazy.
They're all like that.
Yeah, it's like, they are literally. Like, my wife watches MSNBC and CNN, and I'm like, oh, man, they're just sensationalizing everything nowadays. It's crazy. So I don't know. I mean, I heard something as to what it was. Maybe he should ask himself a couple questions. 1, was the radio on? 2, was there someone in his back seat just saying the word Jonathan over and over again? Jonathan.
I think like, I think that there's usually logical explanations. It reminds me of, like, the whole moon landing hoax thing, which bothers me so much because it's so obviously landed on the moon. But there's some people that and there's, like, just physical evidence of it now. You can just look in your fucking telescope. But you know, people are like, well, the flag doesn't move and all this kind of stuff. I was like, there's explanations for all this. You know, NASA's not, you know, they're not stupid people. But, like, there are things that feel supernatural that aren't. Like, I suffer from sleep paralysis, and it's horrifying. And you feel like when I sleep on my stomach, sometimes I can't move, and I'm awake. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I have to, like, force myself out of it. And it takes time. And one of the things about sleep paralysis is that you feel like there's someone in the room with you, because you're horrified.
Like, people always talk about, like, it feels like somebody's on top of you.
Yeah. And, like, you feel like someone's watching you or there, or, like, and something like that. And you just have to overcome it. It's like, it's not supernatural. Like, there's something wrong with me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like,
physiological.
Yeah, it's just like
something's just wrong.
No, but that's what it is. And you know, people talk about it when you're in these stressful situations. Like, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're stressed out, your brain can produce chemicals that'll make you see shit. I mean, you can hallucinate. That's why that's why that term exists. Hallucinations. Like, you can see shit that's not there because you're terrified and your brain's producing insane amounts of chemicals, right?
Yeah.
So you really, again, I do believe in the other. I do believe that there are things out there that just we'll never be able to explain. But the sad thing is, I don't think we'll never be able to explain them because we won't have the scientific means by which to do so. I think we'll never be able to explain it because we're dumb shits with no attention span that even if it were real, we'd be like, whatever, fake, Kardashian. Fake. Kardashian. You know, that's just how the brain works these days.
They're real.
They're 100% real.
Mm-hmm.
Kardashians and Germans taking it on the chin this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how I feel about ghosts. Never figured it out.
No. I remember in Linkin Park's Reanimation CD, there's a Place for My Head remix. At the very end of the song, there's a part where I swear to God, it's me saying my best friend Curran's name. Curran? And like to this day, I'm convinced that it's me.
You think you time traveled back there?
Something happened.
Wow, I can't wait
and
for
that was the ghostliest thing I've ever experienced. That I'm like, I can't explain that because
Sure.
that's me saying his name.
That's a good one. That's scary.
Yeah, that's
your ghost went
there.
back
I'm
in
going.
time and did that.
Mm-hmm. But I know I didn't do it.
Yeah.
So ghosts aren't fucking real.
Okay. Colin, it's Nick's topic.
Yes.
Do you need to run
you need
and
to
go
go?
watch the Islanders?
No,
I
I
feel
think
like you can go.
I think puck drops at 4:30. So
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I will not feel
I'm
bad
good.
if you need to
No,
take
no,
off.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. According to NHL.com, it's at the 4:30 puck drop.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
appreciate
I'm-
it.
Puck drop.
For
So
those
then,
of you out there-
before starting Nick's thing, then yeah, for ghosts, I don't know.
I'm a motherfucking ghost.
I believe in God. I believe in supernatural stuff. But yeah, why don't we have videos of ghosts yet? Come on, get it together. Amityville Horror.
we do.
Straight out of Long Island.
It's called the remake of Poltergeist. I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
Well, Casper.
Unlike at Andrew Pallam, who asks on Twitter, if you had to rename yourself, what would you pick? What name would you pick?
Just rename yourself.
Literally rename yourself.
My
What would you
God.
pick? Remember, if you guys have topics for the show, tweet at Nick_Scarpino with topic in the tweet and let me know what you want on the show,
Last
like
name, too?
Andrew did. Anything. I mean, my brain immediately goes to the one name or the symbol. You know, like
Prince?
yeah, like the artist formerly known as Prince, where people ask you your name, you just give them a card. They're
Yeah.
like, how the fuck am I supposed to call you? Like when your table's ready, you're like, figure it out. Hashtag figure it out. You know what I mean? Like,
What do you mean?
When I was young, I was really stupid, as young, stupid kids usually are. And I went by Timmy instead of Tim.
Timmy O'Toole.
And I was, like, every once in a while, Kevin will call me Timmy. It's really funny.
Timmy.
I don't know what spurs it, but you just do it. He does just be a dickhole. But every once in a while, I'll get the Timmy. But when I was young, someone, when you're little kids, you like do all these things where like you go by like your nicknames and stuff.
Sure.
And it's like if you say your name backwards or whatever and all this shit. I remember one of those things was the first and last letter of your name. And so for me, it was T and Y. So Ty. So for a long time, I was like, I wish my name was Ty because I thought Ty was a really cool name. And then I met Ty Root. I'm like, that's weird. I actually met a Ty. Never thought that was a real
more
thing.
than one.
Yeah. So there shouldn't be though.
There's more than one.
So
that
Ty
you made
was
up in
my
your head.
like third grade answer. But now I don't know. I kind of like. I never really liked Tim Gettys. Like I was like, I wish my name was more of a thing than it is. But then over the last couple of years, I'm like, it's kind of a thing. Like
Yeah.
Tim Gettys is a solid. We all got good names.
Yeah, we all have really good names.
I don't like my last name.
Nick, you don't like your last name?
Yeah, it's too Italian.
Scrappy Doo, come on, it's good.
Scarpino is such a sick name. Like I feel like that last name makes you as cool as you are.
It's just so damn Italian. It just.
Don't turn on your people.
I'm not turning on my people. There are plenty of fine Italian last names. Scarpino just seems almost comical as a last name, especially when you know what it means.
What's it mean?
I've talked about this before, but it means little shoe.
Oh yes.
Little shoe.
Yes.
Yeah. Which when you see a lot of people tweet at me this picture of Scarpino's, which I think is like in Montreal. It's like a shoe shop. They're like, how'd you get up here? And I was like, money. I always wanted like. You think when you're like you see this a lot with like celebrities, right? Now that we're internet superstars, we should consider this as well. A lot of people pick the names that are striking with like with the fewest amount of syllables.
Yeah.
Right. So like a lot of people like the idea of the two first names. So like Nick Daniel or Nick Marcus or Nick something along those lines where it's just
Nick Marcus.
See, doesn't that work?
Producer.
Hi, Nick Marcus. And we talked about that a lot too because that's one of my wife's last names. She has a hyphenated last name, and so when we were
Like how Greg just.
She had a hyphenated last name for her parents.
from her parents,
So she could have had the triple hyphen.
she could have had the triple hyphen.
Oh.
But when
awesome.
we talked about it, she was like, because she didn't change her last name because she was like, look, is it really that important to you that I take Scarpino as last name? And I'm like, I made a actual deal with her. I was like, look, until I do something in this world that makes you think I want that guy's last name, you don't have to file the paperwork because it's a pain in the ass. Like you got to redo everything.
Yeah.
And it's like I think you can do one form now, but if you don't do it at the time of getting married, I think it's a bigger pain in the ass. So I was like, maybe I'll take your like last name. We'll just condense it all down. I'm like Nick Marcus. Hi, I'm Nick Marcus.
Yeah.
How dope is that?
I mean, it's dope, but so is Nick Scarpino.
Yeah,
Scarpino's a
Yeah, I
better
think
one.
you're
It's
on
got
top.
character.
It's
You
got
got
more
character.
character.
You don't want the character.
It's less whitewash.
I don't remember exactly how the whole story went, and it gets really complicated. But in my family, there's my Irish side and my Italian side, and my last names somehow could have been either Maltoni or McTiernan. So it'd be Tim Maltoni or Tim McTiernan.
McTiernan's a badass
McTiernan's a
last
good
name.
Both of them, I'm like, fuck, that's awesome as shit. Like that makes me sound like a comic book character.
No, it makes you sound
I
like
think it sounds
John McTiernan's like son.
I mean, I would love Tim McTiernan. I would rock.
You sound like an Irish, like McTiernan is like you're like a gangs in New York.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool.
Like he's just making knives out of random shit. You're like, Tim, just buy a knife. He's like, nah, this is what happens. Was that a pirate?
Yeah, that wasn't Irish. I don't know what that was.
Sorry.
I'm interested in what Greg thinks of his name because you have Gregory Miller. There's got to be a million of them, but you are the Greg Miller.
Right.
So does that like I don't think there's a Greg Miller that's bigger than you.
Greg Miller.
There's definitely Greg
for
Millers that are
years.
bigger than you physically because you're not
Sure.
fat anymore. But you are like for there's got to be a lot of them, but you're the Greg Miller.
Yeah.
Does that mean something to you?
Yeah, I like my name. I've never thought about not having it, and it's a cool. My dad's a Greg Miller. His dad was a Greg Miller.
Oh, you're wait. Well, I didn't know that.
Different middle names. Different
Oh,
middle names. That's how you get away from the junior.
yeah, I was
senior,
like, what the fuck are
third,
you
any
talking
of
about?
that
I didn't know
stuff.
you were
No.
like the fourth or something like that.
Nah, yeah.
I thought I was gonna learn something new about you, but I didn't.
You did,
I learned something new about your dad
and my grandfather.
and your grandfather.
I think we all have different middle names. That's how you get around.
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So your dad's Greg. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. You heard him on the phone during the games.
Oh man, he has such a Midwestern accent.
Good old Greg Miller.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of problems. Right? There's a lot of things wrong with me. A lot. I can't even begin to name them. My name, not one of those things that's wrong with me. I love my name.
Yeah, your name's awesome.
And that's like one of the things where I'm like, I'm fine. And my brother too, Dagan. Like we have great names.
Deacon.
Your brother's name, by the way, is a Star Wars name. Like it is that name where you're like, fuck, man, that's a cool name that you don't hear all the time. It sounds like he should be like the interim pilot of the Millennium Falcon. Like when Han's not there, it's like, give it to Dagan. Dagan Solo will take it, you know? It's like Han's older brother that's like not quite as, callous as Han is.
Yeah.
So he's like, dude, give me the Millennium. Like that thing needs new fucking rims. Like, let's go. Like the tires on that thing are bad. Get them fixed. Give them to Dagan. Dagan will take it.
Yeah, I just feel like with for all of my psychoses and all the fucking just random ass things that are wrong with me, like I'm happy with my name. I wouldn't want another name. I think any name would be a step down for me. Like I just think that it's good. And my last name is I love my last name, and I love my last name because it's just become relevant again culturally. You know?
Moriarty.
I used to get like very obscure references. Moriarty's obviously was written in books in the late 1800s, and was Sherlock Holmes' nemesis. But and I used to get like one-offs about that. But when Sherlock Holmes came back finally, not the show especially, but also like the movies and stuff like that, like I started getting it much more, and people think that a lot of people think that it's not my real name. Like there are a lot of people.
It's a stage
there
name.
are people out there that think that like Colin Moriarty is like a stage name or like my pen name.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's my name, and I have no middle name. That's a tradition in my family. The males don't have middle names.
That's crazy for a time.
So yeah, Dagan's just Dagan Moriarty. I'm just Colin Moriarty.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope.
That's good.
I feel like I met a lot of people with really cool names. I feel like I like girl names a lot. I don't think there's any guy name. Like, because I often think about like if I have kids, what would I want to name them?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any names for a dude that I'm like, I like that a lot. It's just like there's girls' names that are just like pretty sounding and shit.
Pretty sounding.
No, I have really good. If I had to change change my name to like seriously, or name a child. I always liked Vincent because I have an uncle and my grandfather's name was Vincent, so Vincent Scarpino, Vin.
Vinny.
Vin.
Come on, you can't get away from that. That's
I like
good.
Vin.
My dad's name is Louis, so Lou. We call him Big Lou, even though he's like 5'6".
Everyone, what I realize is that this is funny. I was talking about this with my friends when I was home on Long Island just a couple weeks ago. Is that we just call all of our each other's parents Big whoever. Like how's Big? Like my dad's name is Gerard. Like how's Big Jared doing? And I'm like good. How's Big Flo? Which is like his mom.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gets a little insulting because we used to call one of our friends' parents Big something because she was actually big. Not to her face, of course.
I feel like it would be insulting if you were to call her Little as well.
Yeah. Little Shoe.
Yeah, Little Shoe. There you go. I don't know. So off the top of your head, what would you name yourself? If you had
I don't
to?
want to. I mean, if I had to, Robert? No, I don't throw Robert in there.
Robert.
Bobby.
I would rename
That's
you.
what you would name yourself? Is
What?
another
Bobby?
Bobby?
No, I'm saying Robert. Robert has a different variation.
Bobby Miller.
Bobby Miller.
Well, I thought I had to change everything.
Robert.
I can see you as a Bobby though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You actually, I'm seeing you as Bobby from Bobby's World.
Bobby's
Yeah.
World, big ol' head. Generic.
Yeah, I like that show.
Yeah, who didn't?
That was a funny show.
Howie Mandel got it on lock.
Yeah, the one thing that I think is interesting too is that there are, we were talking about how many Greg Millers there must be. What I was surprised about with the internet, the advent of the internet, was how many Colin Moriartys there are. Like, I was like, I can't believe that there's got to be like 20 of them. And I'm like, this is incredible. I remember when I was at GameFAQs, before like Facebook or anything was ever a thing, someone emailed me and was like, I'm named Colin Moriarty and I'm older than you, so I was Colin Moriarty first. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that email.
Should we reply to him, I'm better.
Yeah, and I want to be like, I was
How
born
many guides
after
have you wrote?
and I'm the verified Colin Moriarty on Twitter. Okay, see you later. Bye.
Damn.
But no, it's so funny. Like, there's like a really good guitar player out there named Colin Moriarty, and like some other people.
Are you the Colin Moriarty?
What do you mean?
Like you said, I'm the Greg Miller.
I assume so.
Yeah.
But I don't want to make that assumption. There's actually a hockey player named Colin Moriarty that's like in high school or college. I Google my name pretty often just to see like what kind of shit people are talking about me. And I run into like some of the similar, so the guitarist and then like the hockey player and a few other people. But
yeah, there's Greg Miller photography, and there's Greg Miller lockpicking for beginners, and then there's a Greg Miller Elvis impersonator. But I haven't checked on these in a while, so maybe the Elvis impersonator hung it up, but it's possible.
Yeah, there's another Tim Gettys out there, and he makes a lot of dumb videos, and like there was when he was younger and stuff, and like he's embarrassed by them kind of, and just hopes that people don't ever look at him and shit.
Sounds like you. Sounds like you.
Oh, it's another Tim Gettys.
Sure?
Definitely, yeah.
Does he have a friend named Alfredo in a lot of these videos?
He does, yeah. It's a different.
What about
Alfredo
Kevin?
Diaz.
Is there a Kevin in these videos?
Kevin never has made an appearance in a video that went live.
Okay.
He's made appearances in some other ones, and one day we'll see those.
All right, I'm gonna rename you guys then.
Thank you.
You're gonna be Kal-El. You're gonna be Galvatron. You're gonna be Sweet Jesus. You're gonna be the Corpse Bride.
Sweet Jesus is my favorite one.
Sweet Jesus. Can you imagine that? Just like,
name was
what's your
Sweet
name?
Jesus.
Sweet Jesus.
Sweet Jesus Gettys.
That's a dope name.
That's a good name.
Jesus
Everybody
is
take
a
that
good
if you're about to have a
Jor-El.
kid.
You can be Jor-El. You can
No, I thought you were giving us real names. I didn't think you were just giving us fun names. Based
What?
on
I
what we
mean,
love.
I had a friend that named his kid Cal. I think it was from Cal. Because
It was
of
probably
Cal
after
Jr.
Titanic.
Nicolas Cage named his kid Cal.
After Superman.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's dope.
He's a big Superman fan, which makes it even more sad. The whole death of Superman lives. But that's the story for another day, because I'm gonna see that movie when it comes out.
He would have been terrible.
Shut up, you don't know. That's me. You don't know. He's won an Academy Award. I assume, hasn't he?
Yes, he did. He won for leaving Las Vegas, but then afterward he decided to just do crazy stuff.
Yeah.
He's crazy.
Superman's a crazy story.
Yeah.
How crazy is it that one day
Irish.
we're gonna? Well, I don't know if we'll ever meet him. Maybe we will. But there's gonna be just a bunch of Khaleesi's running around.
Yeah,
That's weird.
it's kind of whack.
Oh, because people are
Especially
naming their kids Khaleesi.
This is the problem with this, by the way. When I was thinking about this with like naming your kid after, you have no idea where that character goes or what happens to her or the things she does. So you better be very careful if you're naming your character Khaleesi. There are 2 books left, and she could be like a fucking mass murderer or die a horrific death or something like that, and your kid is now named after this person. Think about it.
Yeah, think about if you named, you were like, oh my god, I love that Khal Drogo guy. Name my kid Khal Drogo.
I remember
Khal Drogo.
Went out like a bitch.
Yeah.
Khal Drogo. Sorry.
this was a while ago, but I thought this was so corny. Like I think I was in college when this happened. That there was like a big story about how a couple named their kid Espen because they loved ESPN.
That's
And I was like,
hilarious.
come on.
Well, I remember
That's hilarious.
the first time I heard about all this and it blew my mind was when High School Musical came out. Like that, there was like after the first one came out, like right before the second, they released this thing where in the last year it was the most like the top named kids were all named after characters in High School Musical. Like all out of the top 10, like 5 of them were, or like the actors, like this kid or one of the
Zach.
There was a lot of Zachs, and then Corbin Blue was one of them.
Sure, I don't know.
think Corbin was like world record for most Corbins.
Corbin. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was named after a TV show. Nick 8 is Enough. One of the kids from 8 is Enough.
Nick at Night.
My brother loved that show. My mom was like, what's your name? And he was like, how about Nick?
Really?
Yeah, that's it. That's what happened. There's no Nicks in my family. It's not like a name that I took after.
I think we said this before. Kevin got named after
Kevin Arnold.
Kevin Arnold.
What
Would you do
when that corpse is in front of you?
Damn.
Things
Would
are
you
getting
try
so
to
real.
lay down on top of him?
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can get the whole show early each and every Friday at patreon.com/kindafunny. But if you don't want to give us any money, no big deal. We break it out topic by topic, day by day, and put it up on YouTube the following week until we post the entire thing on Friday as an MP3 and video for your pleasure. Hit up thekindafunny.com/store. Get this producer/seducer shirt that looks amazing.
It looks so cool.
Until I
wearing
got
mine
this
tomorrow.
shirt, I was not able to do this.
Whoa.
But now I can do it. It just like that. The shirt gave me new abilities.
Holy shit.
It's amazing.
Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.